Good afternoon and welcome to Upgrading Legacy RTUs. Before I introduce today's speaker, I want to make sure everybody's familiar with the conference platform. On the right side of your screen is a chat and Q&A area. Please use the chat to have open dialogue with us or with other attendees. These are specific to each session. If you have a question for today's presenter, please post those in the Q&A area so we can keep all questions in one place, and we will get to as many of those as we can at the end of this session. All of these sessions are being recorded and they will be on demand within a matter of hours. If available, you can find any relevant downloads for this session just below the main presentation area. Your speaker today is Ari Baum. Ari has been with Minsait ACS since 2000 and is one of our resident RTU experts. Prior to joining Minsait ACS, Ari worked for FPL as an electrical engineer. He later became the chief electrical engineer for the largest privately owned sugar mill and refinery. Ari also worked for ABB in a sales capacity. His focus is on mission-critical energy and information management systems, with special emphasis on substations and distribution grid automation and enabling grid resiliency and reliability. Assisting Ari today with the Q&A portion is Clint Cowan and Joe Boyke, two more of our resident RTU experts. Ari, I'm sure the attendees would rather hear from you, so if you're ready, I'm going to turn it over.
Ready as can be. Thank you, Delena, and hello, valuable customers, prospects, colleagues, and friends all over the globe. For taking the time to join us today in this Legacy RTU Upgrade webinar, in which we will share, present, and discuss our field-proven RTU upgrade solutions. In this session, we will address some typical questions such as why upgrade existing RTUs, why upgrade RTUs rather than replace them outright, and what has Minsait ACS to offer in the space of upgrading RTUs. Addressing the common question as to why upgrade RTUs, our response is to economically and effectively facilitate grid modernization. With RTU upgrades, we address challenges such as equipment obsolescence, the need to improve performance, the lack of spare parts and support, recent demand to comply with cybersecurity requirements, and last but not least, addressing the reality in which many of the RTU experts who installed, maintained these legacy RTUs for decades have now retired or about to retire. In this session, we'll be addressing our unique RTU upgrades versus replacement outright solutions. We'll then share several use cases emphasizing our value proposition. Life extension and migration strategy. The header at this page is all about effectively preserving the original investment in the existing installed base RTUs. So let's get started. Topics of discussion for today: who are we? Minsait ACS RTUs, customers, you can see IOUs, government munis, co-ops, US international. The Minsait ACS value proposition, the RTU upgrades, the large portfolio that we have, features. Then we'll be focusing on GE, D20s, and others, case studies, and Q&As. A bit about the history and accomplishment. The company ACS, prior to be acquired by Indra, was founded in 1975. In September, about 3 years ago, Indra Sistemas acquired ACS. Hence, 46 years of serving electrical utilities, mission-critical needs and requirements. We are based and headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. That is the ACS portion of the Minsait ACS. We are smart grid leaders in the space of DMS, OMS, SCADA, digital solutions, and today we'll be talking about RTUs. We already to date delivered over 26,000 of those. 19 plus years upgrading second source, non-Minsait ACS RTUs, but I'd like to emphasize that all along we did upgrade and we are upgrading our own RTUs. I'd like to basically address two categories. One is the obsolete legacy RTUs and then the aging RTUs. Also, within those categories, you can see the centralized architecture versus the distributed architecture. The distributed architecture, such as the GE and the Telegyr 5700, as compared to the centralized RTU architecture, which are the ACS RTUs, as well as Landis+Gyr, Harris, System Northwest, Leader Northern, believe it or not, even Chrysler was at one time in the business of offering RTUs, for which we have upgrade solutions. So that's what it is. Also wanted to make sure that at this point, just FYI, although the Telegyr 5700 are under aging, they are now actually obsolete. So we are only referring to the GED20 as aging. All the rest on this page are by now obsolete orphan RTUs. Market drivers. What are driving some of the needs to do something with the existing aging or obsolete RTUs? First, grid modernization initiative, digital transformation. That's a major driver. Cybersecurity, SIP requirements, critical assets, transmission, distribution, generation, all fall within that category. The analog communication lines are being eliminated, and those that are still being in use are very costly to use. Aging and obsolete RTUs, missing required features such as open protocols, configuration challenges, communication, IED integration, etc. Then, of course, the spare parts depletion, and if there are some, there's long lead time to get them. On occasions, we hear about missing delivery dates, not by us, but by others. And of course, that is adversely affecting projects. Last but not least, the fact that experts are retiring or already retired. How do we stand in line of those challenges? First of all, we are strategically committed at the highest level. In other words, Indra had recognized and realized how effective the RTU business is, and they are supporting us all the way. We are shovel-ready, field-proven. All the solutions I'll be sharing with you today have been already proven and installed, verified time and again. Cybersecurity, we are NERC SIP compliant, and we're also Linux-based. We offer 10 years warranty. The design, the development, and all the manufacturing is done in the Atlanta area. We have a very large portfolio of upgrade solutions. We have a superior and elegant upgrade solution specifically for the GED20 and the Telegyr 5700s. We have demonstrated time and again a flexible and responsive way of addressing spatial requirements by our customers. And last but not least, we pride ourselves by offering a second-to-none customer support. Some of the customers, as far as logos are concerned, you see on the left top side the very large IOUs such as Entergy. You see some of the government agencies such as WAPA on this side when I'm moving the cursor, NIPA over here, and we have others as well. And then again, many customers, of course, those are only some that we were able to put on this page. RTU upgrades versus replace. Why upgrade? And that's really the key. In upgrades, we are offering a tremendous value proposition that's being recognized by our customers time and again. First of all, a significant reduction in cost when you compare replacement versus upgrade. On occasions, 2/3 of the cost of replacement outright is being saved by doing upgrades. Same thing with the time associated with upgrade versus replacement. You are significantly reducing the time it takes, and later on I'll share with you a few more stories, but just to let you know that we do normally our upgrades, and our customers actually are the ones that do the upgrades within a day or two versus weeks, months, and who knows how much longer, depending upon such. And last but not least, the reduction in risk. If you look at those little pictures, and later on we'll be talking more about those, that's an example of how many wires, how many field wires are connected to either one or all of those peripherals. And by us not having to touch any of those field wires, we are significantly reducing or practically eliminating the risk associated with if one has to touch field wires. In the RTU upgrades in general, we replace the processor, the brain, so it's a brain transplant, and the old power supply. We retain existing control interposing and latching relays, which is a big investment and by and large a very reliable piece of hardware within the overall installation. We also retain the digital and analog input termination module. The field wires are not touched, and existing SCADA EMS master database and displays don't have to be changed. Everything is done at the RTU level. Here is a list of how many of those legacy third-party RTUs we have managed to offer solutions over the years. So you can see a lot of Telegyr, System Northwest, Chryslers, Tejas, QEI, Westronics, and so on. But notice how many customers came on board as far as the GED20. I kind of put it in a box on the bottom right bottom. In the space of new RTUs, the platform is called NTX. Software operating system is Linux. We offer a 10-year warranty, capable of integrating discrete IOs and IEDs in the same chassis. The environment is very scalable, flexible, and modular. It's easy to configure by using our NTX Explorer, and as mentioned, we are SIP NERC compliant. Here is an overview picture of some of our RTUs. On the right side, you have the 200, which is half rack, and then you have the full rack, 19-inch, 220, 240, 260. On the left upper side is the NTX20. That's our small RTU on steroids, as we refer to. And on the very last, on the bottom, we refer to the second source RTU upgrades. We'll be showing you later on how we do those. Here is an example of those RTUs actually when we travel around and have our demo units. You can see on top are the 200 to 2260, 20. An example of the Telegyr 5700 happened to be the combo unit, and then all the four of the GED20 peripherals. On the bottom, we also show the interposing relays that we offer and can offer in conjunction with those RTUs. So here's an example of one of the largest environmental substation RTUs that we had shipped during my tenure with ACS. This was a four basically cabinet large RTU that went to N-Star before they changed over to Eversource. It was a few years ago. So you can see that we not only offer loose RTUs, but we also offer complete solutions in enclosures and cabinets as such. Here we are showing the NTX20, the small guy that I mentioned earlier. And on the left side, we have a case where we offer a pull mount to Detroit Edison. That's a full enclosure that we basically assemble and provide Detroit Edison by large quantities to their pull mount applications. On the right side is again a small cabinet with all the internals that the National Grid specified and requested, and that's an example of how we offer those. So in other words, just to reiterate, this is not just the RTU, but also the enclosure as such. Talking a little bit about moving over to the GED20s. Those are the four peripherals that we offer. The top one is the analog, next the status, controls, and combo. Notice that what we do here, we have, and by the way, those are the copper peripherals. Later on, I'll show you some of the fiber peripherals, but those are the copper peripherals, and that's how we communicate between the peripherals and to the head RTU. And again, in a moment, I'll show you how that works. Speaking about fiber and copper, left side are our copper peripheral U20s, while on the right side, and you can see how they're daisy chained here as far as the communication between the different peripherals. So you have, the analog, digital, control, and combo here, and here you have the analog and digital and combo on the left side as far as the fiber peripherals. As far as the Telegyr 5700, again, top analog, next the digital, then a relay module that takes care of the relays, and then last but not least, at the bottom is the combo. Keep in mind that we only need this part here and not that part there. That part there is the backplane, backplane. We basically leave the backplane intact. We don't change it. We just bring the top part. Hence, we don't touch the field wiring. Yet, you will see later on that we also offer the backplanes if needed. Here is an example of a system architecture that uses our RTU as the main RTU. So here are the peripherals that are daisy chained between them and then being brought up via DMP IP to the head RTU or RTU. This can be an NTX of any kind that talks IP. If you go to the next slide, here's an example whereby customers can use anybody's RTU as long as it communicates DMP IP and still utilize it as such. We do have customers, however, that can actually communicate directly from the peripherals to the master without any of the in-between RTUs, simply because every one of our peripherals is also an RTU. Same thing with the U57, which is the Telegyr 57 answer upgrade. And again, you can see the 4 modules that I showed you earlier, and they are all communicating to an ACS data concentrator, or likewise to anybody's data concentrator as long as the data concentrator communicates DMP IP. Unique Minsait ACS NTX U20 and U57 features. I'd like to elaborate a little bit on this type of upgrade. So the upgrade facilitates upgrade in which no backplane, term modules, and field wires are touched nor removed. We are providing field-proven experience, references a large installed base. To date, we delivered over 3,000 of those peripherals. Each of the NTX U20, U57 peripheral performs as an IED. If desired, they can perform as a communication processor or data concentrator RTU. In addition, they can also integrate IEDs. When needed, Minsait ACS can also provide the peripherals term modules. In other words, in the event that you want to upgrade or expand, and I'll show you later on some images of such, you'll see that we can also offer the backplane or the term modules on both the GE D20s or the Telegyr 5700. But keep in mind, by and large, we claim to fame that we can upgrade those without touching any wires, hence leave the peripherals or the term modules in place in just bring hours. Digital inputs timestamped to 1 millisecond through IRB or GPS. We provide such at the peripheral level. We include logic application capabilities using isograph through the NTX logic application that we offer. We accommodate a dual network switch. As you saw earlier, we can daisy chain between the peripherals and basically link the information up to the host RTU. And natively available Radius client for remote application, authentication, and RCM. And again, all design, development, and manufacturing is all being done here in the United States in Atlanta. Other features, the operating system is Linux. The communication protocols are DNP, Modbus, IEC 104 over IP. Communication media, both copper and fiber. The fiber can be either SC or ST. We have customers that use either one of those. All electronic components are off the shelf and current. Cybersecurity, we comply with those requirements. If needed, and depending where you use those peripherals, we can also, as an option, do conformal coating, and the warranty is 10 years. And now to the use cases. So here is one of the first upgrades we did for Excel Energy in Minnesota, called the Witten Substation. You can see the before on the left side and the right, the after. I refer to it as although it's a GED20, but it was a centralized architecture type application. So you can see again on the left side are the peripherals, the G peripherals with the GED20. Here are our peripherals. Here is a data concentrator, not an ACS data concentrator. And here are some adapters that later on after we delivered the system, we found out that actually this particular application or this particular system communicates with some older CDC type RTUs, interposing relays, not RTUs, interposing relays. And we had to come up with that type of adapter, which R&D managed to do in a few weeks after delivering the system, which was something that nobody knew, that didn't tell us, we did not know, and yet we came up and delivered those adapters. Here's an example of a distributed architecture with Entergy in Arkansas. That was the Woodward 115 kV substation. 16 peripherals distributed throughout the control house there. You can see some of them in the back here, then on the swing door there, and some here. In other words, 16 peripherals. we all did this together with the Entergy personnel. At that time, we had our field engineer, myself out there. We upgraded it one day. And you can see those guys are smiling, meaning that they are happy. Here's another example where the peripherals, so the whole system, is mounted to the wall. And as such, really there is no any other way but to do a form-fit solution for those. And again, with our solution, you just remove the existing peripherals and put ours on without touching any of the field wiring, without taking any additional space. And again, this system was mounted flush to the wall at the SRP at the Papyrus substation. Well, just recently, we did an upgrade at Nevada Power. And again, look at the many, many field wires on the left side as opposed to the right side. In other words, the field wires were not touched. And we put in our peripherals, and within one day again, this particular upgrade took place and was completed. So that's really where our strength comes in. One day and you have a modernized, brand new upgrade solution, with the latest and greatest, and without affecting much the operation whatsoever in one day only. Mentioned and showed you earlier how we actually can offer not just loose components, but also panel shop type and enclosures. In this particular case, Entergy asked us to mount our peripherals on some racks. And we complied completely with Entergy's requirements. They sent us their requirements, and we basically installed all of them as such. And you can see two panels on the left side still at our site before shipping, and on the right side already installed. One more thing that I'd like to emphasize here are that in addition to the peripherals, we also offered our interposing relays. In this particular case, they already upgraded the existing installed base and they had to expand. As such, they used both the term and the DAX. In other words, the backplane and the top part. And of course, the interposing relays. So again, the message is we can do it all. Not just loose parts, but we can also offer complete solutions as such. Moving a little bit to the Telegyr 5700, and there again, we have ample experience with those. Companies like TVA, for example, is one of our largest customers in this space, but we also have Entergy, and we have Loop River and the others, that came on board as customers. And so you can see on the left side a typical, and not the only way of how they look like, but one of the examples of how we see those in the field, whereby all the peripherals are in a large cabinet, and then the Telegyr Siemens RTU that is now obsolete, of course, is residing and sitting on the door. Here is basically what we did again in one day. And by the way, Clint, who is online with us here, he was there on site together with our field engineer to do it. In this particular case, you can see that we are using one of our NTX modules, a data concentrator. But once again, as mentioned, a data concentrator can be any data concentrator as long as it communicates DNP-IP. And by the way, so far I showed you, I'll show you again, here are some of the existing customer base domestic-wise. Mentioned already a lot about Entergy, as you can see, covering 4 states, Excel, NV Energy, both Las Vegas and Reno, Dominion Energy, and so on. All the yellow backgrounds are GED20s. By the way, Brunswick EMC just came on board last week. So we constantly are adding more customers to our existing installed base. So the yellow stars are all GED20s. The purple stars are the Telegyr 5700. So as I mentioned, TVA is one, NV Energy is another one. Out here is Loop River. We have up here the Wellesley, the town of Wellesley, and soon also another company that is joining us in this space. So that's the example of a short list of existing domestic customers. We also have international customers. Chile, for example, last year acquired a lot of our Telegyr 5700 upgrade solution, the U57s. that was Transelect in Santiago, Chile. Also, the Philippines are customers of ours, and we have NGCP as well as Indra Philippines as customers that acquire our equipment. And that one, at the moment, are GED20s upgrades, as well as they are looking into the Telegyr 5700s. Here's the secret to our success. That's the team that actually takes care of the RTUs. Now, this is only a short list or a short image. Of course, we have accounting, we have HR, we have the rest, but those are the guys that are day in, day out dealing with the RTUs. So on the left side, you have the RTU R&D folks. On the right side, you have the proposal, engineering, drafting. And in the middle, of course, you have the folks that make it all happen. And when I say make it all happen, believe it or not, during the very challenging days of COVID last year, these guys didn't miss one single delivery. Every single one of the orders was delivered either on time or ahead of time. So really, they are the ones that are there to make it happen. So that's the teams that we basically bring to the table when we talk about the RTUs in general, the upgrade RTUs and the new RTUs altogether. And that's it. I even made it within the time frame allocated, 26 minutes. So, Delena, take it over.
Awesome. Thanks, Ari. That was wonderful. Hopefully everybody found that very informative. We did have a couple questions come in if you guys are ready to take those. The first one looks like, oh, I lost it. Where did it go? Hold on one second. There it is. All right, the cost difference between the two, upgrading versus replacing.
Okay. As I mentioned, 2/3 of savings can be realized by doing an upgrade versus a replacement. And mainly we're talking about engineering, field labor, and parts. And in other words, the labor of the folks that have to design it, do the design work, because once you touch an RTU and remove it, you have to come in with a complete design package. And that is very costly. The labor in the field, and we have cases where we heard about 8 months and $850,000 to replace a Chrysler. As a matter of fact, it was not the Chrysler, it was a CDC 44500 RTU. We do it within a day or two at a fraction of the cost. So I hope I answered that question.
Okay. We've got a couple more that came in, and a reminder, if you guys have any questions, just use the Q&A section on the right side of your screen there, and we'll get to those. We've got a little bit of time left for some questions. So looks like the next one is, how much time is saved when upgrading versus replacing?
Well, as mentioned earlier, a lot of time, significant. And we do our upgrades by and large, no matter how large the substation is, including point-to-point testing within a day, or depending again, if it's an extremely large substation, of course the point-to-point testing may take a bit longer, so two days, 3 days, but that's already pushing it. So we, as I showed you earlier, the 16 peripherals at Entergy at the Woodward substation took us 1 day, and we were done in a short 1 day, not even in a long 1 day.
Okay, thanks, Ari. And then I think we got time for one more. How do you keep the RTU NTX platform current?
That I would like to defer to Joe, who is head of R&D on the RTU side. He is challenged with that situation time and again. And so, Joe, would you please take it over?
Sure. And it's becoming particularly a challenge now. I mean, we've all seen the stories about supply chain shortages with automobile manufacturers and other industries. So it's really becoming a challenge. But each time we order a system or a set of boards from our contract manufacturers, both of them here in Atlanta, just down the street from our office, they both have industry databases where they run the entire bill of material through that database and compare and check for all obsolete or going end of life, etc., not recommended for new design type components. And they will notify us on that. So each time we build a set of boards up, we are constantly testing them. Whenever we do get the notification from the contract manufacturers, we then review the parts, specify alternates, or in cases where an alternate is not available, we then start working on new layouts so we can maintain the compatibility and functionality and not miss a beat with any of our shipments.
Great, thanks, Joe. I know I said one more. I'm going to cram one more in because I'm the moderator and I say so. So we had one come in that says, do you have any future products in R&D that could be future POS solutions or an upgrade to existing solutions?
And once again, I would like to defer this one to Joe. And Joe, if you don't mind to talk about RCM, I think that would be a nice one to share with the audience.
Sure. One of the new things that we are working on is ability to remotely configure and manage your RTUs. Several of our customers that are using the GE systems have hundreds of the modules throughout their support area, and we are working on a product now that will allow them to remotely access those, maintain inventory, maintain history of the firmware in them, to perform firmware updates, make configuration changes, etc. All of this is logged and tracked so that there is records for their SIP compliance, so they can provide documentation to their auditors when the time comes, and so they can show that if an event were to happen at a substation, they have a way of identifying the exact base load and recreating that in the units.
Great. Hopefully that answered that question. We are out of time for questions, but if you have sent something through on the Q&A and we weren't able to get to it, we will message you separately and make sure we get your questions answered. I want to thank Ari, Joe, and Clint for joining us today, and thank you everyone else for joining us as well. Just a reminder, if you are looking for a past session, those are available now in the on-demand area in the sessions menu. Also, please sure to visit the exhibitor area for any additional products and solutions. These sponsors are the reason we were able to bring you this interactive virtual conference at no additional cost. So make sure you go over there and show them some love. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next session.
Bye, everybody.